All right, part 2 of lesson 8. Here we go. We are still going to be talking about absolute value, but instead of equations, we're going to be looking at inequalities. So, how does our procedure change? So, this is example 3. How does our procedure change if I have absolute value of 2x plus 1 is greater than 5? So instead of an equal sign, now I have an inequality symbol. Well, it's mostly the same. Okay, we're still going to break this up into 2 inequalities. One of them is going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to have 2x plus 1 is greater than 5. Then I'm going to have 2x plus 1. And just like before, it's going to be negative 5. And we change the direction of the sign. We change the direction of the sign. Now, the word we're going to put between this is or. Okay, so one thing I want you to remember is greater than means that we use the word or. That's going to be important. Greater than means we use the word or. Now, let's solve these. Now, these are just simple 2-step inequalities. Subtract 1 from both sides. Divide by 2. We get x is greater than 2, or x is less than negative 3. This is coming back up from what we were doing at the beginning of the lesson. Let's graph these now. Remember how I said on the previous page, and means we go between, or means we shade at the ends. So let's set up our number line here. 0, 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Squeeze it in on the end there. Okay. X is greater than 2. Open circle at 2. Shade to the right. X is less than negative 3. Open circle. Shade that tiny little bit I have left to the left. And there we go. We're done. All right, let's try another one here. Let's say I have absolute value of 4x plus 16 is greater than 8. All right, we haven't ever had anything outside of the absolute value yet, but we're going to get rid of that first. So that goes away. And I'm left with absolute value of 4x is greater than negative 8. Now, before you say no solution, I want you to think about this. An absolute value will never equal a negative number, but we're not asking if it will equal a negative number. We're asking, when will this be greater than negative 8? And the answer is always, right? This will always be positive. And if the left side is always positive, that means it will always be greater than negative 8. So this actually means that it's not no solution, it's all real numbers. That means no matter what x is, this will always be true. Okay, so let's kind of summarize this. If I have an absolute value of whatever, and it's equal to a negative number, that is a no solution. An absolute value can't equal a negative number. If I have an absolute value that's greater than a negative number, that's always true. That will be all real numbers. Now, let's talk about the other scenario. is that I have an absolute value that's less than a negative number. Can an absolute value be less than a negative number? No, it cannot. So this will be no solution. Okay, let's try another one. Absolute value of 3x minus 9 times 2 less than or equal to 12. All right, first let's get rid of the stuff on the outside of the absolute value. Divide both sides by 2. I'm left with absolute value of 3x minus 9 is less than or equal to 6. Less than means and. Less than means and. Let's set up our two inequalities. My first one is going to be 3x minus 9 is less than or equal to 6. Exactly the same as what we had. The other one is going to be 3x minus 9. Flip this and make that negative. 3x minus 9 is greater than or equal to negative 6. And now we solve. Add 9. So I have 3x is less than or equal to 15. Here I'm going to have 3x is greater than or equal to 3. Divide everything by 3. I get x is less than or equal to 5. And x is greater than or equal to 1. And means we shade between. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put a closed circle at 5, a closed circle at 1, and we shade between. We want all the numbers that are less than or equal to 5 and greater than or equal to 1. Okay, let's try these two. I'm going to give you these two to do on your own. So let's say I have absolute value of x minus 5 plus 2 is less than or equal to 9. I'd like you to solve and graph. Solve and graph. And I have another one for you. Negative 2 times the absolute value of x plus 5 is greater than 10. All right, pause the video, solve these on your own. When you're done, check back and see how you did. All right, so for this first one, first thing you needed to do was get rid of all the stuff outside of the absolute value, so subtract 2 from both sides. That would leave you with, oh my gosh, I just realized I did the problem wrong because I wrote it down wrong. Well, okay, so if this was a minus 5, shoot. All right, a minus 5, I would actually add 5 to both sides. Then I would have x is less than or equal to 12. And then this is x minus 5 is greater than or equal to negative 7. I would add. This would be x is greater than or equal to negative 2. So I basically would flip-flop this graph. I would have negative 2, 0. Here's 12. And I'm going to shade between them. Well, that didn't quite go as planned, but hopefully you guys get the point. This one, same thing. I'm going to get rid of the stuff on the outside of the absolute value. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. Since we're dividing an inequality by a negative, we flip the sign. And I'm left with absolute value of x plus 5 is less than negative 5. It's impossible for an absolute value to be less than negative 5, which means there is no solution. All right, that is it for your videos. We'll see you either on Thursday or Friday.